basis, and that the firms have to report it on a daily basis to regulators.
Peter Elkind with Fortune Magazine talking about the last days of MF Global. Thank you for your time, sir. On C-SPAN 3, you can see the hearing from the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee on Eric Holder. Right now, we go to the House of Representatives.
The chair lays before the House a communication from the Speaker.
The Speaker's Rooms, Washington, D.C., June 20th, 2012. I hereby appoint the Honorable Tom McClintock to act as Speaker pro tempore on this day. Signed, John A. Boehner, Speaker of the House of Representatives.
The chair will receive a message.
Mr. Speaker, a message from the Senate.
Mr. Speaker,
Secretary.
I have been directed by the Senate to inform the House that the Senate has passed S. 3314, an act to specifically authorize certain funds for intelligence or intelligence-related activity and for other purposes, in which the concurrence of the House is requested.
For what purpose does the gentleman? Message is received. For what purpose does the gentleman from Iowa seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I present a privilege report for printing under the rule.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
Report to accompany H.R. 5972, a bill making appropriations for the Departments of Transportation and Housing and Urban Development and related agencies for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2013, and for other purposes.
Referred to the Union calendar and ordered printed. Pursuant to Clause 1 of Rule 21, points of order are reserved. For what purpose does the gentleman from Iowa seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I present a privilege report for printing under the rule.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
Report to accompany H.R. 5973, a bill making appropriations for agriculture, rural development, food and drug administration, and related agencies' programs for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2013, and for other purposes.
Referred to the Union calendar and ordered printed. Pursuant to Clause 1 of Rule 21, points of order are reserved. The chair lays before the House the following enrolled bill.
Senate 997, an act to authorize the Secretary of the Interior to extend a water contract between the United States and the East Bench Irrigation District.
Pursuant to the order of the House of January 17, 2012, the chair will now recognize members from lists submitted by the majority and minority leaders for morning hour debate. The chair will alternate recognition between the parties, with each party limited to 1 hour, and each member other than the majority and minority leaders and the minority whip limited to 5 minutes each, but in no event shall debate continue beyond 11:50 a.m. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Oregon, Mr. Blumenauer, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While there have been occasional steps backward in America's march towards equality for all citizens, progress and understanding have marched steadily onward. As a result, America is a more diverse, and it is better for it. But we must continue to work hard to create a truly equal and just society. Discriminating against an individual based on race, religion, or sexual identity is deplorable and unacceptable. Historically, the LGBT community has faced significant discrimination, but the country has come a long way in recent years in attitude. Most Americans are more accepting regardless of sexual orientation. But there remain too many areas where society still must translate the attitude of most Americans into rights and protections for citizens for all. LGBT students should be able to learn in a safe school environment free of cruel bullying, psychological or physical abuse. The term bullying actually does not capture the behavior and the threat. Foster children should be adopted by loving families regardless of the parent's sexual orientation. And of course, most fundamentally, Americans should be afforded the right of marriage, whether they are gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transsexual, same as heterosexual couples. I've been involved with these issues since I first chaired the hearing in the Oregon House of Representatives on anti-discrimination in 1973. Right through today, advocating the repeal of DOMA, I've been proud to work for equality throughout my career. But there remains much work to be done. In the name of extending equal rights to all Americans, no matter who they love, at a minimum, we should take the following steps. Most important, we should aggressively support marriage equality for all. The Respect for Marriage Act will repeal the Defense of Marriage Act and guarantee that the federal government will recognize any marriage that is legal in the state in which it is performed. The lowest hanging fruit is workplace discrimination. It's long past time to enact the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, ENDA, which would make it illegal to discriminate in the workplace based on actual or perceived sexual orientation or gender identity. Educational institutions must be safe places for young people to learn and grow without the threat of bullying or the risk of being denied the chance to participate in extracurricular activities based on their identity. We should pass the Safe Schools Improvement Act and the Tyler Clementi Higher Education Anti-Harassment Act of 2011. We must stand up for real family values and support the Every Child Deserves a Family Act. All parents who wish to adopt a foster child deserve the chance to do so, no matter their sexual identity. Finally, I strongly support amending the Immigration and Nationality Act to grant same-sex partnerships the same rights and privileges as any other partnership. One of the most important milestones in this struggle was the endorsement recently by President Obama and Vice President Biden of marriage equality for all Americans. With renewed momentum and with continued hard work, we will not only achieve marriage equality for our LGBT friends and families, but equality and fairness in all aspects of life. Make no mistake, we are not striving just for tolerance. We are striving to make this country more equitable, just, and fair, so that every man, woman, and child has the opportunity to pursue their dreams in a safe and accepting environment. Such freedom is the very cornerstone on which a livable community is established, where families are safe, healthy, and economically secure.
The gentleman yields back. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Reyes, for 5 minutes. Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a parent and a grandparent, I rise today with a heavy heart to take time to remember Brandon Ezilares, a young man who left us 2.5 weeks ago. In our community, he will always be remembered for his smile, his personality, and his desire to serve as an inspiration to others. Brandon, like over 11 million people in this country, was gay, and like so many of his peers, was being harassed and bullied until he took his own life on June the 2nd after being threatened with being shot and buried alive. His last message echoed his infinite love for his family and his apologies for not being strong enough to continue taking the abuse that he had faced for over 2 years. His final words read, "My name is Brandon Joseph Elizares, and I couldn't make it. I love you guys with all my heart." High school should be an exciting time with an array of new experiences and challenges. But one thing it should not be is an environment where young people worry about being bullied. Children in high school should be focused on their education, pure and simple. The sad reality, though, is that for many students, their primary concerns don't lie in textbooks or the upcoming exams, but in fear that they will not be accepted by their peers, that they will be physically abused, or in the case of Brandon and countless others like him, that they may consider taking their own life to escape the terrible pain. Brandon was a young man who exemplified our best in the El Paso community. He embodied what this nation looks for in all its young people. He was a best friend, a loving son, an inspiring model and artist, and an excellent student. And to a teenage girl who had contemplated suicide herself due to bullying, Brandon was a superhero and an older brother. Like so many El Pasoans, I feel a personal connection to Brandon, and his death reflects the unfortunate truth that many young people today in our community continue to suffer. I stand here in the People's House to ask my colleagues to help me in ensuring that Brandon's death was not in vain. I ask my colleagues to join me in support of the Student Non-Discrimination Act, H.R. 998, and the Safe Schools Improvement Act, H.R. 1648, to protect LGBT students from discrimination and from bullying in the schools. I also ask that you stand with me in support of the It Gets Better campaign, a project whose goal is to prevent suicide among youth by having adults and allies convey the message that these teens' lives will ultimately improve. In our country today, unfortunately, the facts are clear. 56% of students have personally felt some sort of bullying at school. Between the 4th and 8th grade in particular, 90% of students report being the victims of bullying. 9 out of 10 LGBT youth reported being verbally harassed in school in the past year because of their sexual orientation. A victim of bullying is twice as likely to take his or her own life compared to someone who has not been victimized. Every day, thousands of children wake up fearing for their well-being as they go to school. If the Student Non-Discrimination Act and the Safe Schools Improvement Act were enacted today, we could provide students a sense of relief and some reassurance that their government is working to improve their lives by increasing awareness about their daily struggles. We owe that to Brandon and so many others that are suffering bullying in our schools. And with that, I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. If no other members seek recognition pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the Chair declares the House in recess until noon today.